Everybody listen to We're Not Wizards, because we are the best, and we're not wizards, no matter what anybody says. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for 2019. It doesn't sound
as a change from 2018.
Well, yeah, it's obviously we're a year on now. Joining me, he's not even getting an introduction because he doesn't need an introduction. Some people would say he doesn't warrant an introduction because he's been on so long. He's put, do you know what I mean? He put the Ed into don't know, and he put the Jowett into something else I don't know. He's the one and only. He's not only the repeat offender, he's now working at your local supermarket trying to build up his CV. It is the one and only Mr. Ed Jowett. Hello, sir.
Hello. Thank you for having me back again.
It's always a pleasure. The first thing.
Well, it's more like you can't get rid of me, isn't it?
It's kind of like athlete's foot. Is that I get into a really, really good routine where I'm drying my feet properly off, and then I'm putting a little bit of talc on to make sure they are dry, and then about five or 6 months later, I then think I'm okay with stopping that routine, and the first day that I stop it, guess what turned up? It's the Ed Jow foot.
Oh, come on.
So there we go.
Oh, wow. I think that's probably the least complimentary introduction you've ever given me.
Potentially, but as you know, it's a true thing. These things have to be going out in the open. For people that haven't listened to us for the first, you've all listened to us. Come on, you're bound to. There's like about 200 odd episodes out there. If you've not listened to us by now, I don't know what else. I don't know what we're doing wrong, really. But in case you haven't listened to us before.
Actually, you say that,
yeah.
But I'm going to take a moment to plug another podcast on your podcast, because I can.
Okay.
I was on a podcast with a lovely couple of people called On the Shoulders of Dwarves.
All right, okay.
And they'd actually never heard of you. In fairness, they live in Israel.
All right, okay.
And they happen to be fans of Era Lyres, so, existing fans of Era Lyres who already had the book and were very interested in Definitive. So, I went on the show to sort of talk about that. But I actually told them about you, and they sort of looked you up while we were on the podcast and said, oh, wow, that's, he's done a lot of episodes, he's really big. And I said, yeah, and I've had the honour on being about a quarter of them.
Oh, dear. Right, okay, so anyway, as I was saying... The reason that we do this...
The point is that there are people out there who have not heard.
Well, there you go.
Podcast.
Okay, well, the reason that we do this is because there's quite simply not enough podcasts with us in it. Talking about board games, me and Ed sitting around having a chat about the old tabletop. And the second reason that we do this is because you can give me an L, give me a Y, give me an R, give me an E, give me an S. What does it spell?
I think it spells the first game I ever spoke to you about.
Potentially.
Though, I think it does. I would have to go back and check, but I think the first time I spoke to you was about Era Lyres.
I don't know if it was, because we get confused about this all the time, because you do too many Kickstarters.
We do,
so this is part...
There's no such thing as too many Kickstarters, but we do get confused about it all the time because I've been on so often.
You have. So this is, you're taking part in the Make 100 series of Kickstarter, right. Which is, to give a bit of background for people that don't know what that is, every year Kickstarter encouraged people to make 100, basically make 100 of something, which is the option for them to create 100 things usually by hand.
A
Usually
lot of people
unusual.
I know do bowls, or
Yeah.
like there was one person last year who did badges.
Yeah.
I did a Make 100 last year.
Alright.
I definitely remember what it is, and I'm not looking it up and stalling in order
It's
so I can
okay.
look it up and
We can
remind
put some
myself.
hold music in. Dun, 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 dun,
Oh yes, of course.
dun.
It was Tales of the Empowered, which gave 100 people the opportunity to create a character, which we then wrote a story about, which went into a book, which was produced along with the Era of the Empowered core rulebook, and gave our superhero universe more diversity by allowing literally anyone to create literally anything. So that was what I did for Make 100 last year. I made 100 superhero stories.
And this year, you're producing
year.
the definitive edition of Era Lyres,
That is correct.
which is a critically acclaimed Ripiga, along with some amazing, unique rewards. It's got 11 days to go at time of recording. And you had a target of 500 quid, and you've got almost 2.5.
Yes.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad. And especially with Era Lyres, because Era Lyres is actually an unusual game. I believe I've spoken to you before about games which are sort of the obvious, the thing that people expect to see from a role-playing game, and how they compare to games which are perhaps a little bit off the beaten track. Era the Consortium is a little bit off the beaten track in its own way, but if you look at kind of the modern storyline, it's a sci-fi game that most people can understand the tropes that are around it. And yeah, there's some great detail in there, but the gameplay is sort of your standard role-playing game gameplay, right? You're going to be a character, you're going to go out, you're going to do things, you're going to come back, you're going to get equipment, all of the standard things you'd expect to see in a role-playing game. Era Lyres is not that. And
It's not that thing.
it's not. It's not. And I think that's one of the things that makes it really interesting, because rather than, the GM sort of taking you through an adventure, the players are bards or rogues or people of similar moral standing. And they don't want to be adventurers because it's dangerous. They might lose a limb. And, they'll have to sleep on the ground and stuff. Who would want that? So, no. Adventuring, not for you. No, sounds like a bad idea. No, what you want is you want the golden glory of adventuring with none of the muss or fuss. Right? So what you do is you go out to the blacksmith. You spend your life savings on a sword and some armour. Perhaps a bow if you happen to be an archer. And then you march into a tavern in Yarnulf, the great city of this sort of low fantasy kingdom. And you declare, that you are an adventurer and you have done great deeds. Now, of course, they're not just going to take your word for it, at least not on that basis, and they'll expect you to tell your story. And that's where the game comes in, because you will enter the tavern. You will. I usually have the players sit down for 5 minutes to discuss their story, while I generate the audience. There's a audience generation table. You just roll some dice. You're good. And while they're doing that, I'm generating the audience. And as soon as 5 minutes is up, I've finished generating the audience. They've discussed their story. We sit down and they have to tell their story. So the players work as a team to tell the story of the amazing adventures that they totally did have to the GM, who plays as the audience in the tavern. Now, because they're pretending to be heroic adventurers, they're obviously going to make some claims which are difficult to believe at times. So the tavern patrons will listen, they will dispute, And the adventurers, again in big inverted commas, the players, will have to prove what they're saying is true. And the way they'll do that, for example, maybe you say, oh yeah, I punched the dragon in the face so hard that he fell unconscious. And someone goes, wait a minute, say the town blacksmith goes, wait a minute, no one's that strong. That's ridiculous. And you'll go, really, good sir, and you'll engage him in an arm wrestle. And if you win, then they believe you. He's like, oh wow, that's amazing, you really are that strong. And if you lose, then they don't believe you, and it starts eroding the confidence the audience has in your story. If you go down to 0 confidence, you'll be arrested as a liar, Lyre, that is, which is the name for these individuals who tell lies. I'm funny, and it's a very funny pun. Just to inform the audience listening to this podcast.
I was gonna make people aware of how funny that pun is. If you say it again, I will cackle with laughter. So
I'm glad. That's very important to me.
What are they going to call them?
They're going to call them liars.
Stop.
Moving on.
Moving on. Where'd you come up with an idea for this?
You know what? It's funny. This goes back 4 years. It was the second game I ever created after finishing Era the Consortium.
Mm-hmm.
And I've played role-playing games for a long time, but I've never really come across, or at the time, I had never really come across storytelling games, which are often diceless role-playing games. And the way they were explained to me, which I should say for anyone listening is deeply inaccurate, and I now know, is that basically you can do whatever you like and tell whatever story you like because there are no rules. And I thought that's utterly ridiculous. If I was going to do that, what I would do is this. Because the idea of Era Lyres is you can tell any story you like. You will have to face the consequences for telling that story, and those consequences might be good or bad. People might believe you, they might not believe you. It depends how outlandish you are, and then a little bit of mechanics around, do they actually believe you?
Yeah. So it's a relatively shorter game than what you would normally play. Is it something that you kind of like, if, say you're having a break between campaigns, it would be something that you would kind of like break out so everybody could have a laugh? Because it sounds almost like, almost like a little bit of an aperitif or a palate cleanser. If you've just run through like a 16-week campaign and you're wanting to set up something else, but you don't want to dive into something immediately, but you maybe want to stay with the kind of the characters that you've kind of got to kind of know and love. Is it something you could kind of like, you could just step off to the side, play it a couple of times and then continue with a different campaign if you wanted to?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really good for that, and that's the reason that we created the Pocket Edition, which I know I've come on to speak to you about before. And the Pocket Editions all existed, because of this first one, which became a Pocket Edition. And we created the Pocket Edition for exactly that need. I should say it's available on the Kickstarter. It's £2 for a digital and £7 for a printed version. And the Pocket Edition contains everything that you need to play, but no details about the world. So it's exactly for those kinds of people, the kinds of people who want to tell a story in their own universe, or maybe they've been playing D&D or whatever, and they want to tell the story in their own universe and sort of have that, as you say, the palate cleanser. But Era Lyres has a large and rich world. I have said several times that I don't particularly build role-playing games, I build universes. And role-playing games are a great way to introduce people to those universes. And that's why I create role-playing games, because I like to show people these universes that I've built.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Era Lyres is no exception, and it was my first crack at a fantasy universe. So I'm sure you can imagine it's got a lot of very sort of well thought out details that really come from a lifetime of enjoying role-playing games. And the definitive edition is really about celebrating that universe and giving that universe the chance to shine. We're offering the Pocket Edition for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, but the Definitive Edition is the real new thing in this Kickstarter. And
so what's different about the definitive? What's different about the Definitive Edition?
So I mentioned the Pocket Edition, how it has sort of a very limited amount of story in it. It's really got the character creation, the rules, and kind of the basic setting for, here's how you tell stories. And what the GM needs, so the rules and the GM advice. The Definitive Edition has all of the information about the world. It has the stories, the short stories that we are quite well known now within our games for writing. It has, they give you examples of what stories might sound like, or examples of how those stories might affect the universe or the kingdom at large, if you like. Mm-hmm. There's at least one story where someone comes back to his wife and explains how he's given all of their life savings to a bunch of people who say they're going to get 10-1 for it, because they know where the dragon's hoard is. And his wife is less than happy, to say the least. That's an interesting effect to think about how these lyres have an effect on the world. It also kind of follows the stories of some of the lyres, when they're so close to being found out. What happens then? What happens when they are found out? What happens when they're arrested? All of these things, we explore those in the stories. We then move on to the Bestiary, because while you can make up your own creatures, and there's no problem with that, not everyone wants to on the fly, right? Okay. A lot of people fall back on D&D tropes when they play the game. Again, it's a 4-year-old game now, the original version, and I've played it a lot, and I've watched people play it a lot, and they fall back on the sort of traditional D&D tropes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have written a bestiary. The guy who writes it, he is called Professor Wilton Smythe. And Professor Wilton Smythe...
Smythe's got a Y in it, I'm guessing.
Of course.
And an E on the end?
Rupert Wilton Smythe. And an E on the end. Yep, you're right. And it's hyphenated. Wilton Smythe is hyphenated. Of course.
Of course.
And he has gone out into the city of Yonolf. He has listened to the tales of adventurers and lyres, and he knows what's true and what isn't. So he's written down this bestiary, which explains all about all of these various creatures that adventurers might run into, and he's publishing it so that the adventurers can know what they're going to face when they leave Yonolf to go out and be adventurers. Mm-hmm. Of course, while he believes that he knows the difference between lyres and real adventurers, you may question how true that is, because some of the things that he that he writes are on the interesting side. For example, one of the brand new ones, which I only wrote yesterday, is half demons. So half demons, they're all these pictures of men with horns and tails. And the truth is that half demons like these images and promote these images and make sure that humans think they look like that because they look exactly like normal humans. So people are on the lookout for half demons, mm-hmm. but actually, they should be looking for normal looking humans. Now, the thing is, you see, that Professor Wilton Smythe, the half demons have tried 3 times to prevent him from publishing this work. The persistence of the Rent Man, the Publishing Standards Committee, and the auditors are just proof that the half demons don't want the truth to be told. So yeah, as I say, it is definitely Professor Wilton Smythe's take on what real monsters are like. One of the more classic ones. So we originally produced a bestiary, and some of it's available actually on our website. But I've added new entries such as the half demons. No one's actually heard about that yet. That's exclusive to you so far.
Oh, there you go. Thank you very
much. We're not
much.
wizards. We're half demons.
Definitely not.
But we had some previous ones. The Were Rabbit, for example. We had the Vine Men and Manticores, Northern and Southern, which are 2 very different things, I should add. Northern Manticores, of course, have wings, and Southern Manticores just jump very high.
I was just going to say that. You have to watch
Obviously. Everyone knows that, right?
Everyone does know that. You have to, especially if you're at the Castle War and you're looking them down and a Manticore's about to attack. Yeah. It's the whole...
you think, well, it's fine because it's got no wings, but they jump.
It's the whole African and European swallow thing all over again, Ed.
Yeah, it is.
And coconuts. I mean, this is what it all revolves around. Is kind of like that type of thing. So, in terms of, I mean, is the core around, is it just all about? It sounds like there's like quite a big world involved, but is the core about it just sitting around and kind of telling tales, having a laugh?
Yeah,
having like kind of a lot of fun. That is the core
of the game. The core of the game is telling these stories, and that's really what it's all about. But having this extra world background, as I said, it gives you a chance to subvert the tropes. It gives you some suggestions that are maybe a little bit off the beaten track.
Yeah.
It also there are also locations. There's a sort of a mini book that I published only digitally called The Traveller's Guide to Yarnolf, again written by Professor Wilton Smythe. And he explains, for example, that the customs of Ardeon Bridge, one of the nearby towns, dictates that if you are pickpocketed, it is the height of rudeness to point out that you were pickpocketed, so you must not. This is what he's heard, because Professor Wilton Smythe has never left the city of Yarnolf. But this is what he's heard.
So it must be true then, because he's heard it from a couple of valuable different resources, so it's definitely true.
Absolutely. And it gives you all of this sort of this rich background that you can, it gives you something that means you don't have to be playing off D&D tropes all the time. So all of that is all in the definitive. Then, probably the most important thing of all, in my opinion, I am writing several pages of GM advice on how to run this game based on the 4 years of experience that I've had running it. When I originally wrote the rulebook and the Pocket Edition, the Pocket Edition really didn't have very many changes from the original rulebook. When I originally wrote the rulebook, obviously it was a brand new game and I'd playtested it, but I'd not had the opportunity to play sort of tens of games as I have over the last several years.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot about how it can work. I've learned a lot about what more you want or need. In terms of audience generation, I'm upgrading the options, so it doesn't feel quite so samey if you have multiple audience being generated. I am adding sort of all of the ways in which you can make sure that all of the players get a chance to tell the story. The techniques that I've come up with in order to make that work. I have, added stuff about how you quickly figure out what rewards they're going to get, and some things that I made up more recently about the level of engagement that each individual patron in the bar has, in the tavern actually has. And all of these things are derived from all of that experience running the game, and I think that they are one of the most valuable possible resources for a GM.
Is there ability for them to kind of like have like scuffle mechanics and things like that, make it a bit more kind of...
If things go wrong, and again, that was something that was included in the original game, but it was quite limited because I had quite a limited page count. And I didn't include the full combat rules or any of the details about sort of being non-lethal or that kind of stuff. I just included the flowcharts for Era Lyres and the combat. So, I'm another thing, since you mention it, that I am adding is the full-on combat rules and how the combat is adapted for Era Lyres to make it fit that setting and fit more of a barb rule than a war.
Yeah, you're more likely to go out and be kind of, I guess, slightly hurting people as opposed to kind of like cleaving their arms off their bodies and stuff like that.
Exactly, yeah. You're not going to shoot them with an arrow in most cases in a barb rule.
No. Does that mean you can make it slightly more comedic then?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The one of the things that's going to happen is related to the unarmed combat rules, which I'm going to modify so that you can do... what actually sticks in my mind? It's that episode of Firefly when he starts in an alliance-friendly bar on Unification Day, and then the next thing you know, he's thrown out the window.
Yes. It's like, that's the first episode.
Yeah. Train Job?
Yeah.
Train Job?
Yes, it is.
Maybe?
Yes.
Second episode.
Yes.
It's not how the very first episode begins, but it was the first one that was aired properly.
Oh, right, okay.
Because Simon's already on board and offers to bandage the captain, and he says, no, it's just an honest brawl between folk.
Oh.
And also the first episode begins with, of course, the Battle of Serenity Valley.
Yes, it does. So there you go.
Yeah. I know these things. But yeah, I want to have that kind of sort of comedic fight available to people. You know, I want them to have the opportunity to do that sort of thing and not have problems. Because the combat in Era D10 tends to be on the lethal side. And as you say, the Bob rules that you're going to get are going to want to be a bit more comedic. You know, you're crouched over your lyre, your literal lyre, your musical instrument, while two people are fighting over you. You know, It's that kind of Bob rule, not the kind of I'm going to kill you now.
Yeah, no. I mean, you want people kind of having drinks spilled on them, or falling on the floor, or
exactly.
having a chair broken over their back and stuff like that. You don't necessarily want them getting absolutely destroyed. Just for the sake of a bar
Arrow
fight.
to the face.
Yeah, because it becomes like
it
starts to kind of like get a bit too kind of serious.
Murdery.
Well, yeah, just a little bit. I mean, have you thought about kind of taking that rule set and then using it in, say, the consortium stuff as well? Then
I think that Era Lyres, the rules that it expresses are actually applicable in literally any game that I've created.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a superhero. Honest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are your powers? I can make any door stay slightly ajar.
That'd be
Do you
excellent.
remember that one?
Yes.
Do you remember that one? Yeah.
Yes.
I can make any door stay slightly ajar to annoy people. Oh, really? Do it then. No, I don't want to right now. But I'll tell you a story of when it really inconvenienced someone.
I can automatically disintegrate pasta or rice, but only enough pasta or rice so it leaves slightly less than one portion left in the box.
Wow.
And the victim also forgets that they need to buy more pasta and rice, so when they go to the cupboard, they realise
I love it.
They're not having
it.
an amazing meal. That would be my superpower. You know,
Not leaving doors slightly ajar to annoy people.
not leaving doors slightly
that was going
ajar.
to be your superpower.
I think that, and I think that, and also I think making people chant that they're definitely not going to leave something in the car, but then making them leave that in the car anyway, kind of thing. You know, like milk. Something.
I will not leave the milk in the car.
I will not leave the milk in the car. Gets
God.
into the kitchen, opens the fridge, goes to put the milk in the fridge, realises they've left it in the car. They've got to go back out again. It doesn't take ages to go out to the car, but it's like such a bit of an inconvenience. There's a whole pile of things that you could think about. You know, I'll automatically make you buy the stronger flavour of toothpaste that you don't like.
There you go. That's terrorism. That is.
These are all my superpowers that I would quite happily talk about in some kind of bar drink
There you go.
situation.
There you go.
So there you
See,
go.
that's the thing. It can be literally applied to anything. It can be applied to Consortium, to Empowered, to Survival even. Yeah, I fought a zombie that was 20 foot tall and it crushed my teammate to death with a large fist that looked like a foot.
That teammate there. Yeah.
No, the other one, his twin brother.
What's his name?
Stop crying,
it's
Steve.
not Derek, it's Eric. Isn't it? Eric. Kind of thing. In terms of, I mean, are you you sound like you're kind of still writing away. I mean, have you got to reach a point where you're going to stop? Do you have to draw a line?
Stop creating games?
Well, no, as in stop creating additional content for
what?
For this particular kind of definitive version. Because you said you were still going through a couple of the rules and stuff like that, and kind of updating stuff.
I see what you mean. I have decided what I'm included, what I am including, but obviously the Kickstarter only started on the 1st of January. We're on the 8th of January, and I didn't actually start writing until after the Kickstarter was funded.
Right.
So I've written about 30 pages in the meantime, and I've got about 30 more to write. I know exactly what I'm going to do. You know, I was able to pretty much say off the top of my head what it was. You know, I've got 3 more Bestiary entries to write at this point. I've got another 4 pages of story to write, and then I've got rules and GM stuff to do, and I'm done. Right. It's a lot of new stuff, but I'd like to think that I'm quite well prepared for the level of work that it takes now. After having produced books for upwards of 40 Kickstarters. Eesh. It's a lot. That's a lot of Kickstarters.
That is a lot. That is a lot of Kickstarters. I mean, was it quite easy to fund this one then? Did you find it kind of funded relatively quickly?
It did fund relatively quickly. It actually funded on the first day, but I'll be honest, I wasn't sure on this one, because Era Lyres is one of those games that it's very Marmite. Very, very Marmite. You either get it and think it's hilarious and love the concept and want to play it, or you think it's a bit pointless and you don't understand what I'm talking about, and why would I want to do that? Because that sounds weird. And
yeah, on the other side of it, I mean, you write a lot of role-playing stuff yourself. As I say, one of the things you sometimes need is like an aperitif, something to cleanse the palate. You know, something to kind of make it, something to differentiate yourself from, I guess, kind of other things that are out there. And I guess some people don't want to rock up with a board game, but they just want to play something which is still kind of... I know a lot of people that just, you know, you would never ever get them in front of a set of cardboard, but they'll roleplay kind of forever if you let them, you know.
Not only that, I actually know one person who bought the game and wants to get their group to play it because one of their players, they feel, he's the GM, and one of their players is a little weak on improvisation. And if Era Lyres teaches you one thing, it's improvisation. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to come up with a story in 5 minutes, and then you have to tell the story. And that story has to fill whatever length of time the GM arbitrarily decides it's got to fill. So if you have to pad out that story and add new things in and add new details, you need to do that, and you need to do that pronto, right? And it teaches you that improvisation, and that it also encourages the kind of the roleplay feel, right? It draws you into, okay, well, my character did this, and then my character did that, and then my character did that. And because you can literally tell anything, you're no longer thinking about, is this mechanically viable, or am I going to will a brawl with this? Because it's not about that anymore. It becomes about telling the story instead.
Would you think about moving this away from the kind of the role-playing-y type thing and making it like a kind of a card game type or something like that?
I have considered it. There are a lot of card games out there that are about storytelling. Mm-hmm. I am sort of in the research phase, is what I would say. I'm trying to figure out what I could do that would make this truly different. The thing that makes it different to role-playing games is the fact that, as I say, the players are telling the story to the GM, and the story is the centre of everything. It's not about the dice rolls anymore, it's about what story you can tell. Yes, there are dice rolls, that is what makes it a role-playing game. sort of a more, I wouldn't say traditional, but a more conventional role-playing game than perhaps you can literally tell any story. Baron Munchausen would be an example of literally being able to tell any story.
Yeah.
And the mechanics will hold you up on that in Era Lyres, and they're designed to do so. But how you would make that happen with a card game, I do have some ideas, but I've not yet sort of fixed on how it'll be different enough from other things. I wouldn't want to put something out there that's just a clone of everything else. You know, I don't think that's a valuable use of anyone's time, mine or anyone else playing it. So I'm very determined to make sure that if I do that, and I am strongly considering it, it's unique and interesting in its own way.
And you've been working on, obviously you've done the card games before.
Yeah.
So have you considered kind of moving into the tabletop side of things to kind of expand the kind of portfolio that you offer? Because you've branched out into a lot of different genres with regards to the role playing games. You've had your you've got your card games now as well. You know, as you continue to gain more and more experience with Kickstarter, is that a route you would kind of consider, or are you quite happy with the way that things are progressing at the moment?
That's a really good question. The answer is, I'm going to refer back to something I said a little earlier, which is that I create universes, and what I want to do is introduce people to those universes that I've created. Now, that might mean that the right way is a role-playing game. It also might mean the right way is a comic. As you know, I've produced a number of comics as well.
Yeah.
So the right way might be a comic. The right way might be a card game, as in the case of Champion of Earth and Evil Overlord, because they would never have worked as role-playing games, not really. You know, the universes that I create and the concepts that I come up with develop as time passes, and will undoubtedly branch out to include more genres as I feel that it's more viable to do so. Era Survival is a really good example of that. I'm not sure if I spoke about Life on Gaia, the audiobook of Era Survival. I think I probably did, but I don't remember.
You've mentioned it a little bit, that you've kind of briefly touched on it, but not kind of gone into a lot of detail about it.
Yeah,
I know I know the last time we spoke, you were actually kind of getting people involved in kind of reading parts and producing the audio stuff.
That was not for that, actually. That was for something else, which is an upcoming audio drama. So what I tend to do is I tend to look at something and go, what can I do with this? And particularly when new people join my team, I look at them and go, okay, what are your skills, what are your interests, and what can we do with that? And Leo Kosh, who is the reader for the Era Survival, the Life on Gaia audiobook, has always been interested in voice acting. He's also got experience with audio production. So we said, okay, let's do Life on Gaia, let's do an audiobook. When another person joined my team, Heike Pravitsa, who has also worked with me on another project, actually, and one I'm going to be mentioning shortly on the subject of Lyres. When she joined the team, I looked at her skills and I said, okay, well, you're a voice actor. That sort of gives us two people who are confident voice actors. And then there's me, who can probably say some words into a microphone. Yeah, I've done it enough times on interviews and things. Mostly with We're Not Wizards, but a couple of other things as well. And why don't we go ahead and do an audio drama? And that's what we were talking about last time, because I was working on an audio drama.
Yeah.
So that audio drama, we finished recording, and is off with one of our volunteers of the team to do the first round of audio production on it. Which is very, very exciting, and I'm looking forward to hearing the first episode. I think it's going to be fantastic. And that means that, if something comes along and someone comes along with a level of expertise in something, I well, first of all, or an interest more particularly than expertise. I like to encourage people in my team to work on what they're interested in. One of our proofreaders became a writer, Hande Baruch Kueglu, and I really, really, really hope I pronounced her name right, and if I didn't and she's listening, I'm very, very sorry. But Hande, she and I have been working together since the definitive edition era of the Consortium rulebook, which is quite a long time now. It's about 3 years. And she helped a lot with the proofreading. She's got great attention to detail. And she came to me about a year ago and said, Ed, I love doing the proofreading and I don't want to stop, but can I do some writing as well? And, I put her on a couple of stories for Era the Empowered, which turned out fantastic. She contributed to Tales of the Empowered. She contributed to the Era the Empowered core rulebook. She has contributed to a couple of other bits and pieces since. And I'm over the moon. I'm so glad to be able to offer her that opportunity to be a writer, if that's what she wants to do. And that's why we produce comics. That's why we're doing audio stuff. Members of the team want to do it. And they're willing to put the time and effort in and, work with me to help me understand what it is that we need to produce in order to create something that's good. That's viable, that's high quality. Because at the end of the day, we produce material that I am proud of every time. And I think that is one of the most important things about what we do. I do not want to put a product on my sales table or on my website that I am not proud of. And so far I've never had to.
Where are you with fulfillment with the other projects? Because you run a lot of Kickstarter campaigns. You're one of the most prolific, I guess, kind of campaign creators, games creators.
In terms of games Kickstarters, actually, there's an open question with Kickstarter at the moment about whether I am actually the number one.
All right.
So someone asked because they were curious, and I'm waiting to hear back. Where am I in terms of fulfillment? For the most part, I'm up to date. There are a few outstanding things. So, Battlecruiser Alamo, which I believe we spoke about a little while back.
We did, yeah.
I have just received the proofs and signed them off, and I'm expecting the physical copies to be delivered in a few weeks. It's however long it takes to print now. Now, that is actually slightly behind the schedule that I'd hoped for.
Yeah.
But it was primarily because Richard Tung, the writer of the Battlecruiser Alamo novels, he did a lot of the writing, and I made accounting for the editing and the proofreading as if our normal team did it.
Ah, right, okay.
But he has a slightly different style, it meant that the editing and the proofreading took a little bit longer. I was hoping to have everything sent out by the end of December. I expect I'll have everything sent out by the end of January. And this is the second ever Kickstarter that I have been past the deadline that I committed to. I've kept everyone completely informed, and everyone's been very, very understanding. All 54 backers have not really been too worried at all. They know it's happening, they know why, and I've kept them informed at every stage. And to me, that's the important thing. If something's going to be late, and at the end of the day, things do happen, things are late sometimes. As long as you keep people informed, I've never known anyone to really be realistically angry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've also got the Life on Gaia audiobook outstanding. That's due by March, though. And I'm very confident that we'll get that done in time. We're about 3/4 of the way through the stories at this point, and I'm actually mucking in to give Leo a hand with the editing. So I'm doing a lot of the cutting out of the various bloopers and so on.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bloopers. There are a lot of great bloopers in that one.
Are you going to do a blooper reel?
We are going to do a blooper reel. It's going to be available to the Kickstarter backers who got the memory card, and I may make it available later. I need to make a decision on that.
Yeah, okay.
It's unfortunately decidedly not safe for work. I am actually unsure. I'm assuming We're Not Wizards is supposed to be safe for work, so I can't really repeat the one that's on my mind at the moment. But let's just say that it involved a mispronunciation of the word throng of undead.
All right, okay.
Which sort of then led to a discussion about what that might actually be like.
That would probably green and slightly damp. I don't want to go anymore.
I imagine it wouldn't be very pleasant. Let's just put it that way.
Just don't be cheese.
But yeah, that one is still outstanding. But I'm very, very confident we'll finish it by March at this stage.
Okay.
There's also Era the Chosen, which is going to be finished by May. Obviously, I am writing Era Lyres at the moment, but that's really because Era Lyres is the thing that's on my mind. Era the Chosen, all of the artwork's done, all of the writing is done, it just needs editing. If I take a month over that, I will be flabbergasted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit that up after Era Lyres is after the definitive edition's sorted out, because I'm sort of on a roll with it, with Lyres just at the minute. And I've got Era Survival Colony, which is the card game, which I came and spoke to you about just recently. Era Survival Colony, it's done, all of the printing is underway in China, and I am literally completely blocked until such a time as they actually send over the cards complete.
All right, okay.
So I am literally waiting on the printing production, and then it's a case of dropping them in envelopes and writing names on them. I've committed to deliver it by May 2019, and I'm supposed to have them by the end of January. So I see absolutely no reason why I wouldn't be able to achieve that either.
Should be fine.
So yeah, it's those 5 things that are outstanding, including Era Lyres, of course, as well, because I'm counting that as outstanding. But I'm extremely confident with 2 of them in kind of printing, with one of them 3/4 of the way through production and sort of 3 months to go. And with Era the Chosen being the only really larger outstanding thing, I'm very, very confident I can deliver these no problem.
Have you got a plan for the rest of the year then? I mean, have you planned out kind of what you're going to be doing? I mean, you don't have to go into detail, but how many other campaigns are you considering launching for the whole of this year?
Does that include the comics campaigns?
Yes,
which
everything.
Run on different accounts?
Just hit me up with everything.
I would say in the region of 20. So, beginning of next month, February the 1st, I'll be launching a participation in Kickstarter's Zine Quest. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
No.
Kickstarter is supporting zines. So they're saying, okay, go out and create a zine. Mm-hmm. And we will, and we will sort of have a section for the zines, like they do for Make 100. But they'd like to see RPG zines, and this really is the brainchild of the head of games on Kickstarter, Luke Crane.
Yeah.
And it's his brainchild. He's actually a role-playing game producer. He actually produced... now, I don't want to get it wrong. I think it's The Burning Wheel.
Right.
I think he's the creator of that one. This is his brainchild. He wants to see more zines. So he created this zine quest idea, and it's sort of the big marketing push for Kickstarter. Oh yeah, do this. And I'm contributing the Era Zone, which again is a lovely, lovely twist on the zine thing, because I'm hilarious. I need to keep reminding people that I'm hilarious because I'm writing a comedy game, Era Lyres.
Have you thought about a t-shirt?
Just saying I'm hilarious.
Just to say, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I am very funny.
That's a very good idea. Maybe I'll get that printed on my next convention t-shirt.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's probably wise.
Are you writing that down, though?
It's about the games.
But Ed, are you writing that idea down? I
won't need to, because I'm going to listen back to this.
I don't hear you writing that idea. I don't believe you're going to listen back to this.
I don't know if you know, but I'm hilarious.
I'm the funniest man in my chair.
Fair enough.
You've got that.
So, yeah, Anyway, we're producing the Era Zone, and the Era Zone is going to offer something for every single one of our Era games: Consortium, Lyres, Empowered, Survival, Silence, Hitman, Balam, the lot. And our aim is actually produce more than one. Our funded goal will do 2, and stretch goals will let us get to 4 in the year. My absolute ideal would be the 4, and obviously I'm going to add Era the Chosen into that group. As and when it is published, because it's obviously an Era game. That's the most immediate one coming up. I'm also going to be doing Champion of Earth. I've got another expansion planned. It's Dinosaurs, so human-dinosaur hybrids. I think I might have spoken to you about this before. Because it was a potential stretch goal for the robots, but we didn't reach that stretch goal.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the Dinosaurs expansion. Okay. I am also going to do Radio Free Tyrannus, which is another audio drama. It's starring Leo Koch again, and also it's sort of co-starring me, sort of. I'm the advertiser who goes on and is highly unprofessional.
You've definitely.
I think I've mentioned that.
You've mentioned about being highly unprofessional. I definitely remember.
I know it's hard to imagine, but it does happen.
I can't imagine it in any way, shape, or form at all.
And we also have an extremely exciting guest star who I'm going to be able to announce in March. But I am phenomenally excited. I literally cannot express. We've done all the recording with this individual. And, everything's paid and so on, but we're not announcing it until we're a little closer to the launch. But this guest star I always wanted to work with this person, never really imagined it would really happen, kind of tier. And it's absolutely brilliant. So, I am sure I will come back and talk to you about it at some point. Keep an eye out. But most importantly of all, at the end of February, it is actually the 5th anniversary of Era the Consortium.
You're having a
5
party.
years.
You're having a party.
I am not having a party, I'm running a Kickstarter.
Well, what are you going to be doing? Well, of course you're running a Kickstarter.
Of course I'm running a Kickstarter.
Are you also having a party?
I don't know. I don't know if my wife's planning a surprise party, or possibly Fred and Leo and all the guys who are out here in London. I don't know. If they're listening...
Is there going to be cheese?
If they're listening, you tell them to plan a surprise party.
Guys, plan a surprise party. Cover your ears, Ed.
Yeah, covered.
Right, guys, plan a surprise party for Ed, because it's like 5 years here at the Consortium. That's really big. Okay, do it. Okay, you can uncover your ears now.
How am I supposed to hear you to know when I can uncover my ears?
Oh, you were listening. That's dreadful. Terrible, 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 man.
Well, I did actually cover my ears, but you forget I have in-ear headphones.
Oh, so you do.
So all I did is shove them in tighter.
Okay.
So, I did what you said, but...
Messed up.
We are offering miniatures for Era the Consortium, which is major. I mean, this is new. We are branching into a new area, and what you were saying about media and different types of products made me think of this. And we are offering miniatures for Era the Consortium. They are Stiletto Unit and some assorted sort of Smertios mooks. Smertios Security are the army and the police in the Consortium universe. They are going to be available. We are also offering a special 5th anniversary definitive edition Era the Consortium book, which will have some unique artwork. And it's done. It's highly awesome. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. And we are also looking into the possibility of t-shirts, because we think it's about time there was an Era the Consortium t-shirt that people could wear and come up to us at conventions and go, I'm wearing your t-shirt.
I did not say hello. If you see Ed at a convention, don't say hello, just walk up with your t-shirt and go, and he'll treat that as kind of like a hello, basically. So remember that, and also remember his party. You realise you doing miniatures on Kickstarter, you're going to get 110 £75,000 in funding.
I'd like that. That would be nice.
You just put miniatures as like other. So how'd you play it as an RPG connected to what's this Era Consortium then? It's got miniatures in it. Oh, take my money.
Yeah, I mean the miniatures are phenomenal. I was so lucky, and I got to work with a gentleman named Heriberto Martinez. Really nice guy, really nice. I've been struggling for a lot of years to get the miniatures right, and he came in, he took one look, he said, dump this, dump that, shift this, make that work, this'll print fine, no problems, go. And I have worked with a wonderful individual in the UK who's now actually shut down his company right before I'm going to production. He's actually shut down his company, but Hysterical Games it was called. He helped me through the sort of the molding process. I've had a number of them with me. I have sent some off to be painted, and also, you know, I've also had another set painted by a lovely guy down here who's called Charlie. Those other ones went off to Spain as a small clue.
Okay,
but,
cool.
But Charles Stewart Morris, Charlie, he painted my miniatures. He did a fantastic job. They look absolutely brilliant. For the last several conventions, I've had unpainted miniatures sat in my stand, and 3 times at Dragon Meet, people came up and asked to buy the miniatures. They weren't on sale, but people came up and asked to buy them. So we have some absolutely awesome miniatures. They really are good looking. You can actually hop on our Discord or on our Facebook group, or even on our website if you'd like to see some images of them, because we've actually spread some sort of CGI images of the miniatures. They are absolutely brilliant, and I cannot wait to go ahead and put them out into the world. For those who are worrying, listening to the fact that I was working with Hysterical Games and they've actually closed, I was able to get hold of another individual. I'll leave him nameless for the time being, but he's actually the individual who taught the guys at Hysterical Games how to cast. So I'm in very good hands, and he is enthusiastically looking over the moulds tomorrow. So I'll know a lot more about what it's going to cost per miniature and so on, and what he's gonna need in order to produce another set. Because moulds are fascinating and completely different to everything else I've ever done.
Yeah. You
only get a certain number of miniatures out of every mould, and then you have to make a new mould, which has its own cost linked to it, and so on. So, it's exciting, it's new, and it's Era the Consortium miniatures. I mean, it's phenomenal to see these characters who I first saw. It's the first 8 characters that I saw in Era the Consortium, because the first image that I commissioned was what is now the front cover of the core rulebook. And
that's really cool.
I am able to see those miniatures, those characters as miniatures come to life. And if we reach stretch goals, I will be adding new miniatures. And the first one I'm going to add is the first character that I played in Era the Consortium. Because I didn't play any of those 8, I was the GM. So it'll be the first character that I played as the first sort of significant miniature stretch goal. And I'm very much looking forward to reaching that one, because obviously I want to. Yeah, no, it's an exciting time. And in terms of comics, we've got a Make 100 comic out now for Era the Consortium.
Yeah.
It's called Mobilization, the Bug War number 3. It's the 3rd in our Bug War series, which I know I've spoken about the Bug War before. It's all about the beginning of the war between the humans and the Eulutians against the Zimians. Who later joined the Consortium and become a playable race, but the initial first contact went very badly. And the Bug War number 3 is about the first battle where Consortium ships faced off against the Zimian fleets. And it's about one particular ship, and this ship was the linchpin of the entire strategy. And the first officer is left with a cowardly captain who would rather retreat. And he is faced with a choice about what to do. And I don't want to spoil you, but it's one of the best carried out comics we've ever written.
Oh, that's cool.
and it's all about the interaction between these two people and these people and the rest of the crew, and who the crew believes in and who the crew's going to follow, and it's all about, you know, that snap moment where the first officer has to make a decision. And I think it's one of the best comics we've ever written. It's available now. It's £2. No, not even $3. Not even £2.
That's like about $1.75 or something.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah. For the whole 24-page comic in digital format, it's a little more. I want to say it's $7 for the. $8. I'm sorry, for the physical version, which still is not a lot. I mean,
it sounds like you've got plenty going on.
Yeah, and I've talked before about the Era of the Empowered comics.
Yes.
We have a Blue Shift number 2 coming. We have a Violet number 2 coming. We have another Penumbra comic, which fits in with the Lacuna Blue Shift Violet. Blue Shift number 2, Violet number 2. For those people who are listening who are familiar with our comics, Lacuna is not getting a Lacuna number 2 because he's still recovering from his injuries at the end of the Lacuna comic. However, he will show up in what comes afterwards, which is, of course, the obligatory team-up comic, which is going to go in a slightly different direction to what I think most people might automatically expect. So we've got those. We've got another Era of the Consortium comic coming called Disarmed, which is about mech pilots. It's about a group of mech pilots. And we've also got another superhero who's going to enter the Empowered universe through comics, Fauna. And we've got... Yeah, we got several other things that I can't talk about. Those are the ones I can talk about for now. I've got another card game that's been in the works for a little while and is approaching completion. That one is based in the Era of the Consortium universe, so an Era of the Consortium card game is on the cards. Was that funny or was it bad? It was accidental.
Go home, Ed, you're drunk.
I don't know what to tell you. And I'm writing another audio drama with Heike Pravitsa, and that's going to be, again, based in the Consortium. We have loads and loads of stuff on. It's a brilliant time to be doing all this stuff, and particularly, obviously, the miniatures. And we're very Consortium focused this year, with it being the 5th anniversary. I think that's kind of unsurprising, to be honest. But we're going to... There's a very good possibility. I've got to decide. I've not entirely decided. There's a very good possibility there's more expansions coming your way.
That sounds pretty cool.
Because I've got another set of expansions ready.
So, how do we keep up with all of this? Where do we, how do we keep our finger on the pulse with all of this? How do we educate ourselves?
Okay.
To make sure we're not missing on anything coming out.
Okay, no, I'll give you that one. That was kind of possible. I'm not going to say good.
That was possible. That was passable.
Yeah. So Facebook, we now have a brand new group. It is called the Official Era D10 group. So before we did have a couple of groups for different games, but we're actually in the process of shutting those down. The Era of the Chosen group, of course, will stay open until Era of the Chosen is published. And then I'll recommend that the members migrate to the Official Era Games group, which is the group on Facebook. We have a Discord, and a lot of people, I'm really glad to see, a lot of people are hopping on Discord and asking questions about, what's this like in the universe, and how do you explain the fact that Empowered don't go around killing all the criminals, because if they're just in prison they'll be let go again, and how do you in the Consortium, how does this particular thing work, and what does this rule actually mean, and how do I interpret it in this situation? And that's really what it's for. It's for the community to come together and ask these questions. And at the moment I'm answering these questions, but my fond hope is that at some point, someone's going to ask a question at midnight UK time, and I'm going to be fast asleep, and someone else will go, oh, I know this, it's X.
Yeah.
And that's my fond hope. We're not quite there yet, that's one of those things that takes a while. But join us on Discord. I can give you the link at the end for Discord, so you can put it in the show notes.
Yes.
I am happy to talk Era anything at great length. We have, obviously, our website, www.shadesofvengeance.com. You can obviously check out our news posts or subscribe to our RSS feed there. You can follow us on Twitter, at shades_of_venge. Vengeance wouldn't fit, unfortunately, I'm sad to say. Those are the best ways of following us. You may find us popping up in other places, various sort of RPG forums. One of our members is quite active on Reddit. One of our team members is quite active on Reddit. So if you ask some Era the Consortium questions, or Era Survival questions in particular for that guy, there you might get some answers. And of course you can find us at conventions. We're going to be at Contingency in a couple of weeks' time. I'm really excited for that. It's a really great convention, great environment, and we're going to be running a huge number of games. There's going to be opportunities to play every single Era game. So, and not just with me, there are other people there as well running Era games, which is, again, phenomenal. And we're running a multi-table event. So if you're listening and you're at Contingency on the Thursday, join us for the multi-table event, because it is unique for us. We've never done it before. And we're running anywhere, we can run anywhere from 6 people up to 18 people in 3 groups. And it's going to affect the future of the consortium.
That sounds mega.
So that's pretty exciting.
That is pretty exciting. So obviously, what we'll do, so we'll make sure we put all the links in the show notes, so we've got notes to show.
Well, you do need to have notes to show, because otherwise you wouldn't be showing anything.
Exactly. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, go to the Googles, search for We're Not Wizards. Thou shall find us in multiple places, like Facebook and on our website, and on Twitter, and on our blog, which is we'renotwizards.blogspot.com. Our website's we'renotwizards.com. Our Twitter's We're Not Wizards. Our Facebook's We're Not Wizards. You can find us on all.
It must be nice to have something that fits.
It is. It's always very, very, very nice. You'll find us on all the podcast catchers, which is your Stitchers, your Speakers, your Acasts, your Castboxes, and also places like Spotify as well. If you have liked what you have listened to tonight, please tell someone else about it.
Yes, please.
Just
tell someone else.
Tell someone else about it.
All of the stuff that we're doing. And join our Discord and talk to me and, participate in the general craziness that goes on around here.
Absolutely. And if you like us even more, then consider jumping on to the Apple Podcasts and dropping us a subscription. If you like us even more than that, then consider giving us a rating or a review. If we say, as usual...
I'm going to ruin it, as usual.
You are going to ruin it, as usual. Don't give us 10 stars. Because...
why not?
Because...
come on, we are wizards, let's be honest here.
No,
People look at me, and I say, look, I've run over 40 Kickstarters in 5 years, and they look at me and they say, you're a wizard. If I'm a wizard... Right.
You're not a wizard. Ed, stop it, you're not a wizard. Ed, you're ruining it, right? Right. Don't give us 10 stars because it makes us big-headed. Don't give us 1 star because it makes us cry and I'm an ugly crier. And Ed's trying to make me cry and I don't like it. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. And we're just a little bit...
It's your turn to cover your ears, I'm afraid. Give him 10 stars, he's great.
Don't give me 10 stars at all, because it doesn't work, because it ruins the joke, because you only get 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. As well you know it, Jowett.
I know.
And give us something like 5, because it's in the middle and we're average, and we're decidedly average, like Ed, who's really average. But he does good stuff. He does good stuff, so he's not totally average. But there's only a couple more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Ed? Think carefully.
I am not a wizard. I think that you might possibly be a wizard secretly, because
check
the number of places that you managed to put this thing. I think you might possibly be a wizard, but
potentially we'll see.
Other than that, I'm not a wizard, not really.
And the second thing to do is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from the rather wonderful, the rather fantastic Mr. Ed Jowett. He puts the Ed into education, and he puts the joy into Jowett.
Oh,
say goodbye, Ed.
Goodbye. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for having me, despite everything.
Despite everything. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe, roll6s.com. We're doing a Kickstarter, don't look at it. Basically.
Have a look at it, because all it's really doing is making sure that he stays on a sugar high. That's really the aim of the Kickstarter. Keep him on a sugar high as much as possible.
I'm not giving anything back to society. I'm not doing anything creationary. I'm just looking to get a really big tummy. But until the next time, goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.